Good morning. It's good to be back home in Ranchi here, especially. My apology, I had to miss a Bible study for the entire week as I was traveling. Let me introduce you our new publications. This is Dainik Manan. It's quarterly for July, August, September. This is just came out of the press, hot and fresh. Then our monthly magazine, which is Masihi Awan. These are all written by our local Indian authors from the Hindi belt. If you know somebody who can read these magazines, and if you want to read, we can avail you first copy as free copy. And you can write to us, send me your address to my WhatsApp number, and we will send you a free copy. So that is available to you. And you can give this as a gift to your friend who can read Hindi. We will continue our studies in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. We finished up to chapter 6. Today we are in chapter 7. Chapter 7 is about marriage and celibacy. Paul, remember, he himself is a bachelor, and he is writing certain biblical teachings on marriage and celibacy. Let me read beginning at verse 1, chapter 7, 1 Corinthians. Now for matters you wrote about it, it is good for a man not to marry. He says, if you are called to remain single, if you don't have any chemistry towards opposite sex, and you think you can pretty much, your sexual desire is in control, you don't have a sexual desire, then possibly you are gifted to celibate. That's why he says in verse 7, I wish that all men were as I am. He was a bachelor, he was single. He says, but each man has his own gift from God. One has this gift, another has that. So celibacy could be a calling. Living a single life could be a calling. It may be a gift from God. It's not abnormal. Unfortunately, in our society, we think that the marriage is normal. But Paul says, no. Marriage is not necessarily normal, and living a bachelor is not necessarily abnormal. It's just a matter of calling a gift who is, have a different kind of compositions. Like, for example, chapter 2, he says, chapter 7, verse 2, he says, but since there is so much immorality, there are people who cannot control his sexual desire, who has chemistry with opposite sex, and they commit, kind of a sexual chaos in the society, having more than one partner. And they are immorality, They say, each man should have his own wife, if that is so, and each woman her own husband. So even if you have to express your sexual desire, or if you want to fulfill your chemistries, then it should be done in a way that brings order, not chaos, not some kind of a situation in a society where there is a hatred, there is a crime just because of sex. You know how sex can be a cause of crime. For Paul, marriage is a mutual commitment, is a place where two persons expresses accountability towards each other. Marriage is also a place of submissions, that each partner do not consider their own body as for themselves, but for others, for the pleasure of others. And that's why he says, the husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. The wife's body does not belong to her alone, but also to her husband. In the same way, the husband's body does not belong to him alone, but also to his wife. In other words, after getting married, you cannot just look for individuality. It's not a place for that. You can't be selfish. You cannot be self-centered. You cannot just use your body or think that your body belongs to you and use for yourself. But you have to think also for your partner. It's a place of submission. It's a place of also exercising self-control, that you realize, you recognize that your body is not your own. You cannot use for anybody else. It belongs to your wife. It belongs to your husband. So you exercise self-control. Marriage is also a place where Satan can play a very active role. That's why I say, then came together so that Satan will not tempt you. In verse 5, it's possible that in your marital relationship, Satan can be also active, so that you should not become a victim of Satan. So marriage is not everybody's cup of tea. Unless you have a calling, you are ready for that mutual commitment, accountability, you are ready for submissions of your body to the pleasure of your other partners, you are willing to have self-control and exercise a discipline in your relationship, that you even separate from each other with a mutual consent. Verse 5, do not deprive each other except by mutual consent. You cannot simply be so self-centered and selfish once after you get married. So in other words, Paul says that both marriage and celibacy is a calling, depending on how your body is responding to opposite sex and how your sexual desires, whether it is under control or you have a very strong sexual desire. So marriage is a place for your fulfillment. Marriage could be a calling where you together as a husband and wife set an example of a commitment, accountability, submissions, and self-control. Marriage leads to a family, and family can become a place for the glory of God. On the other hand, even a single bachelor like St. Paul, he and her life can become an instrument in the hands of God, and God can use. So today we will just only study up to verse 7. We'll continue in chapter 7 and we'll talk more about this marriage and singlehood in spinster's life. We will discuss more about that next time. May God bless you and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.